most technologies have a dark side to them that need to be controlled at some point.
One day, we're going to view the internet as being the most horrible thing ever done. And it's going to be so distorted, people are going to be cursing it and wish it never existed.
Let's talk about security. We had a very simple security model, which is the world was divided into two kinds of people, the people I trusted and the people I didn't trust. And I didn't want to talk to the people I didn't trust. That was foolish.
In those early days, I knew everybody on the internet, and I trusted them. And as a result, we did not put in controls to restrict who could get on the net and how they behaved, because everybody behaved well. And if they didn't behave well, the social structure would correct them. And that worked for 20 years, until 1988, when the first worm appeared by Robert Morris. 1994, the first spam message appeared, and suddenly the world saw there were ways to exploit this thing called the internet.
We've learned that most of the communication you do on the internet is with people you don't trust. You go to websites, but they could be full of malware and try to infect you. You get an email, it could be malware, it could be spam, could be phishing. So this assumption that you only want to talk to people that you trust was simply a socially incorrect assumption.
We wished we had put in an appropriate security architecture. We didn't do it. Had we done it, it would have been easy. And then when we reached the place where we did in the 90s and today, when real dark side of the internet appeared and emerged in all the many forms we've seen it, crank up those controls to limit what people can do in a bad way. And as bad as the internet appears today with all of its dark side, the pedophilia, the identity theft, the fraud, all the rest, overall, the greater good totally dominates the dark side.
He is likely the greatest chess player ever, world champ at 22. He never lays down his king, especially not in the face of the new powers that be in Russia, where he led the pro-democracy movement, and now he chairs the Human Rights Foundation. A big dobro pozvalovat for Garry Kasparov. Keep that up. I'm so sorry.
Wow, this is 50 years of internet. What a start. Okay, fine. Okay. Still, very much appreciate the opportunity to be here today to address such an audience on this very special occasion. There are a few people here I know who have as many awards as I do. And I would run out of time mentioning everyone, and I don't want to turn my proverbial 14 minutes, what's left, into an acknowledgments section. But I have to mention the first time I met Professor Leonard Kleinrock in 2010 in Israel, when he was receiving a Dan David's Prize at Tel Aviv University. When I heard his name announced, I excitedly turned to my wife, Dasha, saying, "That's him. That's the man who sent the first message." It turned out we were neighbors on the Upper West Side of New York City, and he was kind enough to let me abuse his time to talk about the origins of internet and about the incredible time and place of ARPA, later called DARPA. I wanted to know the magic recipe of success. What was so special about DARPA in those decades? Or about Bell Labs, where another friend of mine, Ken Thompson, was creating Unix when he was not too busy inventing the first hardware-based chess playing master machine, Bell, the predecessor of Deep Blue. I have forgiven Ken, but I have not forgotten. So what was it about these places and these people that led to so many breakthroughs? I wanted to know because the world today is in desperate need of that fertile soil. And Len explained that it used to be so much simpler. He said, you had a small group of really smart people who knew other really smart people, and a few people giving them money with few questions asked. Well, it sounds like a good racket to be in, huh? But later he added that eventually the DARPA grew too big to exchange, to easily share the ideas across disciplines, and to get grants without filing a lot of paperwork with benchmarks and a detailed budget. This reminded me of what Apollo lunar lander engineer Joseph Gavin once said. If you know the exact cost and the exact schedule, chances are the technology is obsolete. Okay, the places, the institutional structures, the people, the great minds, both were essential, obviously essential for DARPA success. But we have so many brilliant minds today, even far more than ever, considering the global nature of technology research. And surely there are lessons for the private and public sectors in how to let innovations flourish. But corporate risk aversion and bureaucratic stagnations, they don't come out of nowhere. It's easy to look back to the utopian visions of the 1950s and 1960s and think they're naive. But the era was another key factor. The culture of time, the attitude toward technology, and how that attitude was translated into investment of any kind. So let's go back and look at their great visions. The flying cars, abundance of free energy, the bases on Mars, and of course, the helpful humanoid robots. Fanciful and fantastical 50 years ago, but what has really changed now? I want to add my 5 cents to the debate that took place on this stage a couple of hours ago. Robert Metcalfe, Peter Thiel. Commercial jets are slower today than they were 40 years ago now that Concorde is gone. I spent half of my life flying, and it's annoying to think that if nothing changes, my grandchildren will be flying the same planes as my grandparents. No, they're more comfortable. Yes, absolutely. I can testify for that. Yeah, but they're slower because they burn less fuel. Okay, great. Nuclear energy, cheap nuclear energy is shunned and buried under the swarms of regulations and political demagoguery. While here in California, regular blackouts. But the attention is on the cutbacks and renewables that will not change the rising sea levels nearly in time. And we didn't want too much risk, so we gave up on crewed space exploration. Soon after we achieved it. The last man to walk on the moon using Cernan did so in 1972. Oh, now we're talking about Mars again. But imagine where we would be had we not squandered 50 years. As for robots, every amazing new video of a robot opening a door or climbing Rocky Hill, it's met with cries all over the internet, "Oh my God, we are doomed." This doomsaying mentalities, these doomsaying calls, they are scientifically ignorant and spiritually crippling. New technology is the only reason that many of us are still alive to complain about new technology. Okay, the solution is let's not live so long. Yeah, but we don't like it. So I'm 56, and I still believe there are many years to come, thanks to new technology. So we, instead of fearing it, we must embrace it. We must learn how to master it. And trust me, I'm the first knowledge worker in history who had his job threatened by a computer. And by the way, I'm still around. Now, speaking about the futuristic visions, so utopian visions, how about this one? An intergalactic computer network. I bet the younger segment of the audience doesn't recognize it. But I hope the older generation recognizes the title of the famous memo sent out by the information processing director of ARPA, Joseph Licklider, on April 23rd, 1963. An intergalactic computer network. By the way, he described all key features of internet, including Skype voice over IP. I was just 10 days old, born April 13. Now, of course, he was being tongue-in-cheek, but he set a bold course, the one that would be navigated by Leonard Kleinrock and his colleagues here at UCLA and elsewhere, leading to a historic moment exactly 50 years ago. They were dreaming big dreams. They were asking big questions. How can we get machines to talk to each other? It's pretty damn big, isn't it? And this year was another big 50th anniversary. And there is a reason why people return again and again to the 1969 moon landing as a crowning achievement of American ambition and ingenuity. Paradoxically, this incredible feat also must be considered as one of the least practical endeavors ever attempted. And President John F. Kennedy admitted as much when he publicly exhorting the American people to support the cause. In his landmark, we choose to go to the moon speech at Rice University in Houston on September 12, 1962. This speech's most famous line, in fact, is the plain statement that Americans chose to go to the moon because it was hard. Can you imagine a politician today saying that and not losing the next elections? It would have been easy for Kennedy to play the Cold War card more heavily, emphasizing the strategic military importance of the space program. Instead, he did it sparingly. and relied on the grandeur and the difficulty of the challenge itself to inspire his audience and the nation. Kennedy believed in the great power of a dream to change the world despite or because of its impracticality. One footnote. Kennedy was enough of a politician to mention the number of jobs that the manned space program would bring to Houston. And he also pointed out that the space program cost less than Americans spent on cigars and cigarettes in a year, all the way back in 1962. The legendary flight of Apollo 11 realized Kennedy's dream. But 50 years later, instead of celebrating a new Apollo 11, we're celebrating the release of the iPhone 11. And if you tell me what that inspires, other than long lines outside of Apple stores and a small bump in Apple's stock price, I'm happy to hear. I come from a country where people used to stand in line for food, and I'm always amazed and even depressed to see people willingly standing in line to buy a phone almost identical to the one in their pocket. This to say, it's not a denial of importance of these new devices. I'm not saying that smartphones do not represent world-changing technology. They are. These are handheld supercomputers in all our pockets. Each of them 10,000 times more powerful than all the computing power NASA had in 1969. If I had 1 more minute, please. Okay, so I need but how are we using these powers? Are we using them to reach lofty goals? Or we're being used and they're reshaping us and the world in their image? By the way, the same question is to be asked about AI, which I strongly prefer to call augmented intelligence. AI is coming in, it's here, it will soon be everywhere. But again, the same question, how are we going to use it? So are we going to sit passively being changed by it? Or we're going to use it to inspire our creativity, to free us, and once again, realize our grandest dreams. 50 years ago, we have unrealizable dreams of what we would do once we had technology to do it. We had big dreams, and we had our eyes on the stars. Today, we have so much incredible technology, so much. More capacity than we know what to do with. But our dreams have become small, and our eyes are no longer on the stars. We had them instead on little screens in front of us. Today we're celebrating the past, and deservedly so. But everyone in this room and beyond, the executives, technologists, educators, inventors, students must turn to the future. Not the future of quarterly reports and grant budgets. Not the future of future stock prices and venture capital distribution, venture capital returns distribution. Now, of course, we cannot deny the reality of those things. but we cannot let them define our reality. I wanted to end by saying, oh, let's get busy and go to work. But we need more than to work. We need to dream. What is our next? Let's computers talk to each other. What will inspire next generation to believe in the power of technology to change all our lives for the better? What are the impractical challenges, hard challenges that lead to the new discoveries, new industries, and to even more new dreams? What grand achievements launched in this year, 2019, will the next generations look back on and celebrate 50 years from now in 2069? I look forward to your answers to these questions. And in the spirit of these settings, your answers are due before the end of the semester. Thank you.